Well, welcome to yet another segment of Missing Links Golf. It's been a few weeks since I've been able to be on camera for a couple of reasons. I got sick during that winter deal. Took a couple of trips, and then Chase, I just got so busy with work here at the golf course. As you can see, we don't have snow around the mountains behind us or on the green. The greens aren't sanded. We're in the middle of June, and I've got about 3 weeks left to the end of our year. So we've been really busy. But we've had so many requests about putting, we thought that we would actually tackle that, but not in one video. We're going to do this in a segment of video. I'll use Chase as a guinea pig to sort of kind of see where it fits with you, because there's no one, as we've said all along, there's no one fix-all. What we're going to be looking at today is probably the most important part that you can do in your entire game. So let me make some recommendations, okay? Number one, I recommend that when you get to a level of golf, and you can decide where you're at, I'm not going to say a 5 handicap or a 10 handicap or anything like that, but a level of golf where you feel good about hitting a golf ball. Let's say that 8 out of 10 swings, you make a good solid contact to the ball. So getting to that position, you should be practicing on the driving range about 70% of the time. But as soon as you get to that level, my recommendations are that you switch that. And you start spending 30% of your time on the driving range and 70% of your time doing a short game that includes shots from 100 yards in, chipping around the green. You can see guys chipping behind us here. And on top of that, the most important is putting. And let me just tell you why. It wasn't too long ago that Chase and I did a what and a why's in the bag. Chase did a what was in the bag. I don't think it's, for me, it wasn't as important as what was in my bag as why it was in my bag. And I hope that you got that little difference with me. But now I'm going to talk about what's the most important thing we could do to transform your entire game. We've had some really great feedback on some of the videos we did, and just talking about, we did some at my home because the weather was so bad for us out here, and talking about some of the questions that came up about what happens when you're starting to play well and what goes on in your head. And we talked about those kinds of things, right? And we talked about, for me, I talked about golf is not as much a mental game as it is a physical game. And the reasons I went down that direction. And I've got some really good feedback that I've read from golfers that have shot some of their best rounds. When they got to those confronting holes, they confronted it, said okay, and they did their best, walked down and did better scores. And I'm seeing that in Chase's golf too, as well as my own. Those little voices we're talking about. Yeah. But today, specifically, we're going to start a series of putting lessons. To be honest with you, when I do a proper putting lesson, when I do a golf lesson generally between 45 minutes and an hour, sometimes a little bit longer, if my student really isn't getting the idea of what I want him to get in that session. But a good putting lesson is an hour and a half-ish that I use filming, that I use a lot of different things. And so we're not going to give you that full truckload today, but we're going to do the first part of it. And I want these for your own consideration. We did a chipping video to start everything off, and one of the things I said during that video was that I don't know anyone that can teach feel. We can teach method, we can teach concept, but feel is something that I think some people are born with. I think that some people obtain through repetition, and that's why I say, well, you need to, when you start in your practice modes, flip it from 70% on the range to 70% here. Because if what you're trying to do is reduce your score, the easiest, fastest way that I've been able to take somebody who's been an 8, 10 handicap, 15 handicap, to get them to a single digit or a low single digit is not by altering their swing. Matter of fact, my own feeling is I do very little with swings unless there's something glaringly wrong or something that I think somebody should take a look at in their swing. I don't try to make somebody do something with their golf swing. I just try to get their consistency to a higher level. My grandson, who's the best, who wants to putt. I hope he's a good putter someday. So in putting, you just don't walk into it. Some guys do. Like I mentioned a long time ago when Chase first started being a golfer as a teenager and playing high school golf, probably one of the best natural putters that I've ever seen. And the more that Chase learned about the game, the worse putter he became, because he started getting on the technical things into it. And not only that, as his scores lowered, he wanted to shoot lower. And so the things that mattered the most were on the putting green. It's crazy, okay? You take a 400-yard hole. You take 2 shots to go 400 yards. And then you take 3 or 4 putts to get it in the hole. What becomes the most important club in your golf bag? I've asked that question all along. I'll continue to ask that question. What do you think is the most important club in your bag? Here's statistics, and I'll just let you know. If you 2-putted every hole and you were on every green in regulation putting for birdie, you would have 36 putts. That means that in a round of golf, you'd hit your putter 36 times, and you'd shoot even par, which is a great round of golf. Now, let's change it up just a little bit and think about that driver that you spent $400 for. You got $400 spent on that driver on an 18-hole round of golf. How many times you hit that driver, Chase? If you hit it every time you could, there's 4 par 3s. That's 14 holes, so you're going to hit your driver 14 times. Yep. Yet you shoot even par, and you hit your putter 36 times. Yeah. Well, here's the interesting statistics. The average tour player, the average middle-of-the-road tour player, the average putts are just a little bit higher than 28 putts per round. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that, and I think that these are real important reasons that I want you to consider and think about. Number one, and this is the most important kinds of statistics that you can learn when you're talking about golf. We put tour players on a high pedestal. We think they're the greatest thing in the world. And listen, I'm not saying they're not. They are great, and they're phenomenal golfers. 150 guys in the world, make a living playing golf at that high of a level. It is pretty great. But consider this. Their percentages for greens hit in regulation are really not any higher than the average golfer that's out in the world. The difference is that their short games are so highly tuned to a point. That's one of the reasons their putting average is so low. Their up and downs, they're what it takes to make a chip and a putt to get up, either from the side of a green or from a bunker. Their averages are so high, it's close to 75%. Let's just call it 8 out of 10 times they're going to get up and down and make 1 putt. That's a phenomenal thing. When I think what we're at is we're actually probably 3 out of 10 on an average out there. So that's the first difference in a tour player. When I was in college, my average putts, and I took all my statistics for this, were about 33 putts per round. I was an awful putter. And my scores showed it. I remember shooting 68 in a golf tournament once with like 3 putts. Great ball striker, terrible putter. But I've now learned, and I've felt that you can really transform that into becoming a better putter. And what we're going to do is we're going to do certain things that all good putters do. Number one was practice. That's going to be the number one thing, Chase, that I've asked you to take transform your practice schedule from, instead of 70% of the driving range pounding golf balls, to come hitting 70%. That includes putting and chipping. Okay? When you do that, your score will lower. I promise your score will lower. And I also really ask that you guys start doing this with us. All of you guys, the 16-year-old kids that are in Scotland and Ireland and around that have emailed us about how great that they're doing on their high school golf teams and are really improving their game, start keeping track of a few statistics right now. First one is, I want to know, and you should know, what the average distance you hit every club in your bag is. You want to lower your score, that's the first place to start. The second thing is, let's keep track of how many putts you have. Now, a putt is considered to be on the green and putting. The tour statistics don't count a putt if a putter putts from the fringe. It's not exactly on the green, and it's also not counted as a green in regulation either. Sometimes that's a little misleading, but that's how the tour statistics are. That's out Harbor Town. They can get such low putting rounds. The greens are so small, they're on the fringes quite a bit, and they can still make quite a bit of putts. So keep track of your putts per round. Do it now, starting now. Get an idea on 18 holes or even in 9 holes how many times that you putt per hole. Okay? If you're putting 2 putts per hole, That's an average. That gives us a great place to start. Keep track of that. Keep track of the number of greens that you hit in regulation. See how many times that you hit the green that you're in regulation that you're putting for a birdie. Keep track of the number of fairways you hit. For tour players, here again, this isn't a staggeringly high statistic. It's actually quite mundane. So they're really not hitting more fairways than we are. They're really not hitting more greens than we are, but what they are doing is they're using their short game to get close to the hole, to make the putt and lower their score. One of the statistics that is higher for tour players than it is for us is their percentage of putts made from 15 and 20 feet. Amateur players, the percentages are like in the 30%. You're going to make it 30% of the time. The tour players a little bit higher percentage than that because they've practiced those putts over and over and over again. They have confidence in their experience of reading a green. And those are the next things that we'll have to get into in another segment. But what we want to talk about are those things. Start right there. Find out how many putts per round that you're taking. This will lower your score the very fastest if we can improve your putting statistic. Now, how can we improve your putting? Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is how we're going to hold the club. To be honest with you, Chase, there's really not one, in my opinion, right way to hold the club. There's some awful good golfers that do things the same way, the high-level golfers, and so those are the things we'll point out. But I do want to show just a couple of grips. Most grips are generally called towards a 10-finger grip, so go ahead and get in a putting grip, Chase. And what we'll do is we'll show some close-ups of these, okay? So where the hands are both on the club and where the club is working together. The whole idea between the way you have your hands on a club, whether it be with your putter or with your full swing, is that when you make a conscious stroke at a golf ball, the putter's always in the same position. And the thing that we see with good putters are that you have left hand low, you'll have an overlap with the left finger. Tiger Woods actually really uses more of an overlap with his left finger, index finger down his hand. I've seen Chase putt with 2 fingers down. Mark Calcavecchia, and I'm embarrassed to say this, you've watched some of our videos. I was out giving a playing lesson. I've always had a problem in competition, being a little nervous over putts that meant a lot to me, and so I kept trying to find ways that I could make the ball roll where I wanted to with less effort. So I was out giving a playing lesson and talking about all the different grips, the way that we put our hands on the club, and the reality was that I showed them a claw grip that Mark Calcavecchia was doing at the time. This was about 2 years ago. I threw down, I was about 22 feet, 25 feet from the hole, and I put a ball down and made the first putt. And I put the next ball down, made the second putt, put the ball down, made the third putt. What I noticed with this grip for me, and you'll see in the videos that I use it, is that under pressure on a 4 or 5 foot putt, with me, I'm able to keep the putter square through my swing. And so for me, the claw grip made a lot of sense. My brother, when I started playing against him, said it was almost like cheating how I had my hands on the club. Because for me, it wasn't a putt, because you can do several. You can have a putt where the putter will open slightly and close during the swing or release. There's putts where the putter stays square to square. And with a claw, it really makes the putter go square to square. It's not as easy for me to do a long lag putt using the claw. I think it's a little bit harder. But with shorter putts, those 4 or 5 footers that are the putts you really want to make, it just under pressure, I got to a position where I could release the putter, and it was very easy for me to do it. I didn't have to worry about it. And I was very consistent hitting the putter in the same spot every time. To me, that was very important. That goes to the next thing. Here's a couple of things that all good putters do. And I just don't think how you put your hands on the club makes all that much of a difference. The stance, I also don't think the stance is as important as being comfortable. You want to be repeatable, whether it's when you're long swing, you're chipping, or particularly for your putting, to be repeatable. In the age of Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, the quality of greens were such that they used what was called more or less a pop stroke, particularly in the era before that with putters like, great putters like Bobby Jones, okay? If you watch Bobby Jones putt, his hands would stay very still, and he'd get the putter back almost set like you would a wedge, and do what's called a pop putt. He'd pop the ball to the hole. Arnold Palmer, he was sort of a knock-kneed, elbows out kind of putter, and this was his comfort level. Looked really uncomfortable for me, and as a kid I tried to copy that, I just couldn't do it. Jack Nicklaus was the same way. He had his hands in real close. One of the best natural putters of all time, best under pressure putters all time. I know we think Tiger Woods is the great new thing, but look at Jack Nicklaus. Look at his record. Probably made more birdies on the 18th hole, him and Palmer, than any of the golfers I've ever known. Under pressure, one of the two greatest putters of all time under pressure. Very good. They were very consistent. They were very good feel. They were very good with their distance, whether the green was a little slower or the green was lightning fast. They were very good. Jack Nicklaus in the mid-'80s when he won his last Masters, which was just the most phenomenal, he used a putter called a Response ZT. It was this putter on steroids. It was really big. But if you watch him putt, his touch and feel were unbelievably good. So it really doesn't matter how we stand at the ball. What matters is what happens next through the swing. This is what I want to talk about. So Chase, why don't you take a putting position facing the camera? Let's have you face it with your head this way. So I want them to take a look at. Here's a few things that I believe that all good putters do evenly. The first thing they do, and this is what Tiger Woods does, is he has a great idea where the ball is from his eye. So if he were to place the ball, it would be off his left eye, and that his eye would be simply over the ball. Here's the next thing, and this is one of the most important things I could probably stress that all high-level putters do very well. Go ahead and get into that same position. For you guys that are struggling with putts and the putts that are bleeding to the right, or putts particularly that are coming up short, what happens is during your swing, go ahead and take a putt stroke. As you swing, your body moves like this with the putter. Think about this. You can feel this. If you think about the putter or the putting stroke like a metronome, if you take the metronome and this were the bottom place of the metronome, the putter would pass at the same position every single time, right, Chase? If I take the base of the metronome and move it, you can see that the putter never enters the same position ever, right? So good putters, naturally, as they get over the ball, like do that again, Chase, as they get over the golf ball, when they make a stroke, nothing moves. What you have moving with a putter set up like Chase's here is you'll have his arms and his shoulders are an extension of the putter, and they're one piece. The head doesn't move. Go ahead and make a stroke like that, Chase. What I do with this, that I found in my practicing, is I like to take like a 5-6 foot putter, make a circle around it. Phil does this for 100 times. He'll have Bones put golf balls around a circle in the hole, like 4-footers, 3-footers, 5-footers, and he won't stop until he's made 100 in a row. Sometimes he's out there for hours, but not Phil. He's just very good that way. But what happens is if you move at all, if that center moves during this putting stroke at all, it moves the position of that base fulcrum, and the putt goes out of position. It's one of the ways it's missed. And the second thing in this is not only keeping that center nice and calm and quiet, but ball position, okay? So we've already talked about that. We know that if we look down at the ball with your eye, that's about where they want the ball to be placed. And this is real important, and let me explain why. If we take the putt, and the putter, this is at the very bottom of your putting stroke, and that you actually place the ball a little bit ahead of your putting stroke, so you move your hands ahead, okay? So the putter really does meet its bottom of the arc here, but the putter's here. What happens is if you keep your body still and you make the putt without moving, the putter will come up and hit above the equator of the golf ball. The golf ball will start on your target, but it won't roll out to the hole. It hasn't sufficiently been hit strong enough to get to the hole. You might luck it there on a fast green, but it won't be solid. So ball position is very important, so that when you make the stroke, the bottom of where the putter actually is the bottom of the stroke, the ball is placed in such a position that it can make contact every time. And so I think that's very important. So we've had a nice steady grip that's comfortable. We have a stance. A little open isn't the worst thing in the world. A little close isn't the worst thing in the world. As long as you let the putter match your stroke.